All right, so these are a couple of my revolvers, and I had a student not long ago that has some arthritis in her hands, and her, believe it or not, her pastor, ex-cop, let me go ahead and say that, told her she needed a revolver. She has a Smith & Wesson M&P 9 EZ. He told her, you just need to get a revolver. I said, that's what every man who doesn't know tells every woman that doesn't know. She just needs a revolver, okay? I told her she didn't need a revolver, that she needed to get good with what she had. She said she couldn't work the slide on it because of her hands. I said, that's because you've never been taught how to work the slide. And I showed her all that. And still, her pastor told her she needed a revolver. I said, okay. I'm going to bring a couple revolvers that I have that are steel frame so they don't kick your teeth out. Because I wish I had $1 for every man that bought his woman a nice light little Smith & Wesson J-frame and brought her out to the range with the 158 grain Smith & Wesson 38 special. And by the time she had shot 50 rounds in that little gun, she had swore off ever shooting it again. So, that's not what we want to do. We don't want to intimidate people away from shooting. We want to get people into shooting. And hard to do that when you're bringing them out there with guns that hurt them. So the little alloy frame 38s that everybody buys for mom, first of all, they hurt. You might find a round that doesn't hurt to shoot, but it will not be suitable for self-defense. One of the ones I can recommend, if you can find them anywhere anymore, is the old military load, the 130 grain full metal case or total metal jacket. 38 special, which were loaded with 130 grain bullet, and they were loaded so that they could be used in the Air Force guns, which the Air Force guns were all alloy frame that pilots carried as part of their survival package. And it wouldn't blow those little aluminum frame guns to pieces. So they were loaded light. And those are pretty manageable in a Smith & Wesson J-frame because they're a light load and they're not unpleasant to shoot. 158 grain, especially something in the plus P plus or the plus P mode, is absolutely punishing in one of those little light revolvers. So what I did, I brought two of my steel frame revolvers, these two, and I have already cleaned the chambers by brushing them out. And I'm going to brush the bores. I don't know how to do this. I don't have to show you. And I just took some light loads I had, some 38 special full wad cutters, and let these two ladies shoot them. And first of all, let me say, my little lady with the arthritis in her hands could not pull the triggers on these two revolvers. Now, just to let you know, this is the lightest double action trigger pull on a revolver that I own. I would say this is somewhere around 8 pounds. And she couldn't do it. Now, what she could do, she could take her other hand and get up there and what would we say? What would we call it? Double up on her fingers inside the trigger guard, and she could shoot. She could pull the triggers that way, but that was the only way. And I quickly convinced her that her instructor knew what she could shoot and what she couldn't, and what she would do well with, and she did plenty well with her S&W MP9 EZ. And so that's what we started focusing on. We started focusing on her using that once we got rid of the myth that she needed a revolver. Okay. So her M&P, it was a shield. I don't know why I couldn't think of that a minute ago. I knew as soon as I stopped the camera I would think of it. So that's why I stopped the camera. It was an M&P shield, 9mm easy, that she had. Very rarely will you find somebody that doesn't have the hand strength to operate that. If you teach them correctly how to chamber around, how to withdraw that slide, and it's simply, I mean, you can find people teaching it on YouTube. You know, you want to put your hand, your strong hand against your body, grasp the slide with your weak hand, overhand, good grasping, and push the body of the automatic while holding this tight against your body, and then release. When it gets all the way back, you release with your weak hand. Very simple procedure, and she was shocked to find out that she could do that so easily. And the trouble with the shield that I see is they put those Novak style sights on there, which are a slanted ramp, so that you can't hook the rear sight on something and use the rear sight to chamber around, because quite literally you can chamber around with one hand, and it's very easy to do. We teach it in all of our advanced classes, but you got to be able to hook that front sight on something. And I told her I would order her a new sight if she wanted it, but she found out she could work the slide so easily once I taught her how to do it that she really didn't want to change the sight. So very good little guns, and of course they're not striker fired, they're hammer fired. If you don't believe me, look. That's part of the easy. That's one of the things that makes the slide so easy to retract. They're cocking a hammer, they're not cocking a slide, so makes it all work out very well. And most people handle those just fine, and these revolvers were just too much. And like I said, the GP100 only has an 8-pound double action trigger pull, and Man, you talk about sweet to shoot. Big heavy revolver. Throw you some 38s in there. Squeeze that thing off. Nice double action only 8-pound trigger pull. But this Smith & Wesson Model 10 that I'm cleaning right now, let me put the camera down on the table. That I'm cleaning right now has, I would say it's not 10 pounds. It's probably somewhere north of 8, but I would say it's not a 10-pound double action trigger pull. Very light, very reasonable. And they just couldn't, you know, she just couldn't do it with the state that her arthritis was in. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, if you can't do it, you can't do it. But I also told her it's one of those things that you have to do often. I think that when women work the slide on a semi-auto pistol, they're a little intimidated. They're afraid they're going to pinch their hand, which they've probably done in the past. They're afraid the gun's going to fire. Obviously, you keep your finger out of the trigger guard, away from the trigger guard, and up on the frame of the pistol. The gun is not going to fire when you drop the slide. Keep it pointed in a safe direction like always. It works just fine. Now, some people actually get all that black off there. Y'all, I don't scrub that black off there. I like the nickel on my pistol too much or the nickel on my revolver too much to be scrubbing that away and marring up my nickel. And you'll see I took and that really needed a cleaning. Boy, that ammunition we were using was really dirty. It was some commercial reloads that I've had them for a long time. And I guess I had forgotten how filthy they are to shoot, but that's what we shot. And it's crazy because only about 90% of them actually fit in the chamber. I don't know how they ever got past quality control. But needless to say, I never bought any more, but out of every bag of 50 that I shoot, I generally got 5 that won't fit in the chamber. And that's just, they're resizing the dickens out of them on automatic. Nobody notice if the case is collapsing. Which I guess I got them cheap enough, I can't complain. But still, shouldn't put out junk like that. Gonna get this right in here. Now, y'all, this stuff I'm using that I call my secret sauce, I really like it. It really breaks up the carbon. Doesn't do anything for copper fouling or lead fouling, other than maybe seep its way between the fouling and the lead or the copper. You know what I'm saying? It's not a really strong solvent. It smells like citrus, which is one of the reasons I like it. And what it is, I shouldn't tell this because y'all are going to make this stuff go high, but it's super slick stuff. You used to could get it at Lowe's, but they've quit carrying it for some reason. And now I just order it off Amazon. But it does really good job, and it's a dry lube, so when you use it on things, not only does it break up the carbon and kind of put a little rust preventative on there, it completely dries. So you've got like just a microscopic layer that's dry to the touch. It doesn't do fingerprints like regular oil would, and it keeps that little anti-corrosive layer on there. And I really like it. And everybody that I've told about it, they've put it right at the top of their cleaning solutions. I'm just going to brush around this forcing cone a little bit. Looks like we got some burnt powder right there. And like I say, I don't brush the ends of my cylinders. I did if they looked crappy, but that's just staining right there. That's not anything significant. Now a lot of guys will take one of those flits cloths. I guess I could do that. I guess I could probably take my little tube of semichrome right there and put it on there and polish that right off. But really, that doesn't bother me. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with the functioning of the gun. It does let you see that it's been fired, but oh well. I mean, if it's mine, you know it's been fired. I don't know as I have any that are unfired, so I am going to put a little grease. Put a little grease around here. And slip that right back in there. Let me try to put it in the wrong end. Oh yeah, yeah. And check that. Always when you're checking to see if your bore looks good, you can always put you something white behind it. Let the light reflect off of it. You can make sure you don't have any leading or anything in your rifling, and this looks really good. And this one right here has been such a good little revolver for me. Not only did I carry it when I was a licensed private investigator, I carried it, but and for, you know, concealed carry, but my wife carried it for a couple of years as her concealed carry gun until she discovered plastic. And my mom kept it for a while, and it's been in the family. I bought it when I was 21. It's one of those first three that I bought the year I became 21 years old enough to legally buy my own. And man, it's been such a good little gun. It's been in every class I've ever taught, because it was, for one thing, I kept it for spare, so if somebody brought something that didn't work and it happened to shoot 38, this is what they finished the class with. And yes, revolvers tear up. I have had one day in an advanced class where I was doing a church security team. We had 2 revolvers go into hiccup mode where we couldn't even get them unloaded, and that's because of people not maintaining them properly. And it happens with revolvers. And so we did the old clear the firing line, get the toolbox out there, and get the guns back into running condition. And it happens. What had happened on one, it was a Model 19 with a 4-inch barrel. So it's a Smith & Wesson, high quality firearm. I'm getting my screwdriver that I that dropped. There we go. And this guy obviously wasn't a big time shooter, and what he did was when he loaded it, he didn't check to make sure this ejector rod was tight every time he loaded it. And I'm telling you, on the model, on all these K-frames, that dude right there will shoot loose his reverse threads, and if you don't notice it, it'll just keep backing out, backing out, backing out until that cylinder won't spin. And it most certainly will do that. Now you notice I put a little grease on those spots. I take a little bit of grease, just a little on my finger, and I put it back here on the little star ejector. That way those pieces, when that hand comes up to spin that cylinder, it's getting a little bit of grease every time. Makes it slide and slick nice and neat. Don't spin your revolvers and lock them up. Very hard for on a revolver. They're not meant to do that way. It's right here, GP100 Ruger, one of the toughest revolvers you will ever find, and very reliable. The other revolver in that class that day that quit working on us, would you believe, was a Ruger. What's the little one that they call it, the plastic frame job? LCR, Ruger LCR. Buddy, it just quit working, and the guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with it. And I was trying to get him to concentrate on his trigger pull. Man, he was snatching that trigger so hard. And I had him just doing a standard marksmanship drill at 3 steps, shooting at targets the size of a nickel. It's on my don't shoot the instructor target. I'll show that to you in a minute. And the idea is at 3 yards, basically 4 steps, you want to keep all your shots in a circle the size of a nickel. And listen, it's doable. When I have people do that within 50 rounds, everybody on that line is keeping their shots in that circle once they learn that correct trigger press, side alignment, and follow through. Very good marksmanship training. And he was telling me that his Ruger LCR was not meant for that kind of shooting, that it wasn't meant to be accurate. He kept calling it a belly gun. He said, you just stick it into somebody's belly and pull the trigger. Well, he was trying to shoot, and I was trying to instruct him on trigger pull because he was yanking the heck out of the trigger. He said, it won't fire, and I seen his hand shaking. He was squeezing that hard. I said, let me see that thing. And it was kicking so hard. He had some 38 special shell that one of them had jumped the crimp and was sticking out the end of this and wouldn't let him pull the trigger. Well, you know, you can't pull the trigger. You can't open the action to unload the thing. So we called the line clear. I had him bring me, I kept like a wooden dowel rod in my shooting bag, and I took that wooden dowel rod and I just pushed that bullet back into the case to where it looked about right. And I took the gun from him. I said, now, we got that problem fixed. I want to show you something. And we had a full-size IDPA target up at the end of range that we called the Man on the Hill. It was like 127 yards. And I took his little Ruger LCR and I shot the man on the hill with the pistol that he said was a belly gun. Then I took it away from him and I gave him a Glock to use the rest of the day. And his marksmanship improved greatly. But, you know, some people, let me just go ahead and tell you, this gun is as accurate as you are. Don't you blame that 2-inch barrel. I have gotten more steak dinners. Well, I don't do a steak, a hamburger usually, but by people betting me that I couldn't hit a full-size IDPA target at 100 yards with this thing 5 out of 6 shots. I told them they got to give me one to see where it's hitting on that particular day, depending on what ammo it's got in it. And, you know, and they see it and they realize it's double action only because I bobbed the hammer on it years ago. My buddy George was actually using it on a night watchman job and had it in a holster and was riding an electric pallet jack around to make his rounds at this seed factory. And the charging cable fell off of it, got under the wheel, and it launched him. And he broke the end of the hammer off. So I just smoothed it up and polished it up a little bit, and it became double action only, which I only shot at double action anyway. But that gun is just as accurate as any of the other ones you own. It's just harder to shoot well, okay? And that's all. It's just more difficult to shoot well, but you can learn it. All right, we're going to give this one a good scrubbing. I'm looking at. Boy, that was some dirty ammo. We honestly didn't. I'll bet we didn't put 25 rounds. I bet we didn't put 25 rounds through this thing. A few cylinders full. And man, it is black. That guy must have been using charcoal or something in them reloads. Some good old Go-X or something. We're going to get her cleaned up, and I'm not going to take it completely apart because, like I said, I didn't shoot but maybe 24 rounds through the thing. It's just cosmetically, it looks like heck. But these revolvers do malfunction, and I'm going to tell you the bad thing about a revolver: when it malfunctions, you got to get a toolbox. When a semi-automatic malfunctions, you go tap, rack, and bang. When these things malfunction, the toolbox has to come out. And I have seen pocket lint or some kind of lint get between the end of the chamber and the forcing cone, and when somebody pulls the trigger, that pocket lint snags right there, and there it is. And it's stuck. You can't even open the action. So it's there are several things that can go wrong with these. They require maintenance and cleaning just the same as anything else you're going to use. Well, the cylinders actually look real good. The chambers, I mean, in the cylinder. And I scrubbed the bore another time or two, then inspect it. But I love revolvers. I'm a revolver nut. I got a bunch of them, and I pride myself on being able to shoot them well. But to be honest with you, and I've said this before, if I'm carrying to save my life, I would not in the least feel underarmed with either one of these guns. But generally I have a Glock on me. You know, that's since I learned about them and learned how to use them. Now you notice I haven't run a patch through any of these yet. And that's because that's going to be my last step. I scrubbed everything, and we'll run patches through the bores and chambers when I get everything else dressed up and looking good. And what is that red in there? Lord have mercy. I don't know. Those two students were females. Maybe that's some lipstick in there or something. I don't know. Kind of what it looked like. Reddish pink look to it. Could have had something on the primers. Boy, that's being stubborn right there. Might have to scrape that out. That's all right. We can scrape. There we go. I got it. But like I say, I love revolvers. I am a revolver connoisseur. I like Smith & Wesson probably better than Colt. And to be honest with you, I like Smith & Wesson and Ruger better than Colt revolvers, because those Colts always seem to me to be, for one thing, they're too nice to shoot. You work the action on a nice python and you realize what it's worth, and you'd be like, I don't really need to shoot this because the prices they're bringing now is crazy. I haven't tried one of the new ones, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be the same way. Alright, let me get a patch jag. We'll run some patches through here. I don't know if a full-size patch will even go through there. So I am going to cut the patch in half. That's another one of the tricks you do. I buy one size patch, and they're all like cotton t-shirt material. That's what I like the best. You can find them on Amazon or eBay. And then I cut them in half. You know, I'll cut them in fourths for a 9mm or 38. Cut them in half for a 45. Use them just like that for a muzzle loader, 50 caliber. And I can't find any scissors in my box, so I'll use this knife. Try not to cut my fingers. If the video stops right here, you'll know I had to go get a Band-Aid. This is just an old table. There, I think if we put it on this old long neck patch jag, I think it'll work just fine. Cutting them in half. Y'all can tell I kind of enjoy cleaning these holes. Yeah, that's just perfect size. And do the same thing to your cylinders. Every chamber gets a good cleaning. And you see how black that patch is coming out. Hopefully, after we do it 2 or 3 patches, they'll come out cleaner. And looking is a part of it. So after you get them cleaned out, look, you want them just to be nice and shiny all over in there. I don't know, maybe you can see if I put this paper towel up against it. Nice and shiny in there. Get them good and clean. You know, the same thing with your bore. You run one through a few times. Kind of swab it out. And get the other half of that patch. Go for it. And I don't have to have my patches coming out perfectly clean. I'm not one of those people that's anal retentive like that. You got to just keep scrubbing and scrubbing away until, see, that's plenty clean right there. And I don't have to have 0 black left in there. We'll take a look at the end of the cylinder on this one because I didn't look at that good. And see what she looks like. Oh yeah, look how pretty. Isn't that pretty? So that's pretty much how you clean a revolver. Y'all like my Snake Plissken shirt? Does anybody even remember who Snake Plissken is? I hope so. If you never saw Kurt Russell in Escape from New York, you need to watch that one. Probably not with the kids around, but I'm going to tell you, it was in those years when Kurt Russell was kind of, you know, that's his grown-up years. Like Big Trouble in Little China in those years. He made a pretty good action hero. Just kind of your everyday kind of action hero. And now Escape from New York is not like a comedy like Big Trouble in Little China, but it's a good movie nonetheless. Let's look at the end of that cylinder. Yeah, it looks fine. I'm not gonna do all that scrubbing there. There you go, nice and clean. Man, that's such a sweet trigger. Look at that. That's another reason why I like Smith & Wesson over and Ruger over Colt. They got that nice 2-stage just, I mean, it locks right back to that point. You can get really good shooting double action trigger on revolvers with Rugers and Smith & Wessons. Colts kind of stack, you know, they stack a little bit when you do that. So it's like harder, 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 harder fall. Harder, 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 harder fall. These, it's like you snatch it back to that point and it's ready to fire. And if you learn to run your finger through just long enough where you can feel that frame, reference that frame, you get to where you learn each gun. And it's like, oh yeah, right there's the sweet spot. I know if I'll pull it any more from right there, it's going to fire. So, I really like revolvers, and they are every bit as capable of saving your life as anything in the world. But there is no need to buy the little lady in your life one of those little light alloy frame revolvers that digs into the heel of her hand and the web of her hand. You know, she'll shoot 50 rounds, and the next day she won't be able to hold a pencil. Don't do that. Get her a good 9mm. Teach her how to use it. Teach her the proper way to draw a slide back so that she has the strength to do it and she doesn't pinch her fingers. And she'll be able to run her Glock as good as you can run yours. And don't let them settle for second best. It's I heard a guy say once, and it makes a lot of sense. And I taught it for 23 years when I was instructing. You know, I say full time. I was part time. Still had a day job, but you know, we'll give mom the little 25 auto or 380 auto, and we'll take our big hairy chested pistols with us when it's mom who's home alone with the kids all day. And you know, the kids and the mom are more important in my life than my life is. I actually want her to have as good or better of a gun than I do. And I remember a guy took my class once, and he brought a Glock in, and it was cool because it was an old Gen 2. Gen 2 Model 17, which is what I carried for 25 years. And I said, man, this is an old one right here. And he said, yeah, it was my dad's when he passed away. I said, but mom was mom couldn't use it. So I took my 5-shot 38 over there and gave that to her, and I kept this. And I said, you didn't do mom any favors. He's like, what do you mean? I said, she's living alone, right? Yeah. I said, but she couldn't manipulate the slide. I said, can you? He said, well, sure. I said, so load it with 18 rounds. Give mom a little lockbox for when the kids are over. And when the kids ain't over, it comes out of the lockbox and sits in the nightstand. Then she opens it up. She's got 18 rounds before she's got to do anything else. You know, don't use this justification. Giving her a 5-shot pistol. Chamber around for her and give her the gun. And at least that way she's got 18 shots before she's got to worry about reload or retracting the slide. I can't figure it out. I guess he just wanted to get his hands on that old classic. That's all I could figure. But yeah, man, teach them how to use them. I understand there's things that happen. You know, people get arthritis and stuff as they age. It definitely is going to make a difference. But my gosh, you know, if Granny's hands can't operate an 8-pound trigger pull on a .357 revolver, she's not going to be able to operate much anyway. Chamber around, then she's got a 5.5-pound trigger pull with 15 or 16 rounds before she's got to do anything other than pull that 5.5-pound trigger. That's the way. I mean, that's my thinking on it. Y'all may have a different opinion. If so, you can put it in the comments. I appreciate y'all stopping by today to have a little chat while I clean these revolvers. If you've got any questions or comments, put them down below in the comments, and if nothing else, give a thumbs up for old Snake Plissken there. You'll see a Mac 10 with a scope on it, if you want. Yep, a Mac 10 with a scope on it. Sure enough, that's in there. So, appreciate you dropping by. Take care.